Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And with this coming reset, there are a lot of PvP changes coming in 9.2.5, and I wanted to give you my thoughts on what I am considering now to be the top 5 PvP specs moving forward. These are ones that are catching my eyes. What is it about them that could make them amazing, and what are the reasons why you should look to exploit them to your benefit, whether this be climbing rating or just finding a group in LFG, because it can be a struggle, and playing the most desirable specs is going to be the best way to get around that struggle. So without further ado, let's get started with the top 5. Moving into the number 5 position is going to be the Mistweaver Monk. I was a bit hesitant to put the Mistweaver Monk onto this list just because its toolkit has been so limited and so stripped down. Its offensive capabilities are just next to nothing. However, with the significance of the healing output that it is receiving and changes to its life cocoon cooldown, I am starting to think that it could follow the trends as it did in Battle for Azeroth towards the end of it, when its life cocoon was such a short cooldown that was, oh, I'm in trouble, life cocoon. Oh, I'm in trouble, life cocoon. Oh, I'm in trouble, life cocoon. And if that's the case, then you are going to be a very potent healer, and just for sitting in the back, especially with some of the specializations that I think are also going to be climbing up to the top, if not already top specializations that are just getting better as a result of these changes. I think that this could be a great healer to pair up with them. Holy Priest did receive some nerfs as well, allowing Mistweaver maybe an opportunity to grab a top spot. Definitely the highest throughput of any healer, and its synergies with these other classes that I'm about to list, I think, is why it could climb the ranks as a healer. But do take it with a grain of salt, because Mistweaver has been kind of bottom of the barrel for some time and ignored for a while. So we'll have to wait and see on this one, but it comes in at the number 5 position. Moving into the number 4 is going to be the Havoc Demon Hunter. And while Havoc Demon Hunter didn't receive any buffs specifically to it, the fact that other melee DPS are receiving significant nerfs, like Fury Warriors, Crushing Blow having a 20% damage reduction, and the Mastery on the Necrolord banner, and Retribution Paladin having its damage nerfed on Shield of Vengeance, as well as its Templar's Verdict, is going to open up opportunities for other melee DPS to potentially grab this top spot. And I think that Demon Hunter is going to synergize with a lot of other fantastic classes, some of them that are going to be on this list, but other ones being things like Balance Druid, that these types of compositions are going to have a chance to shred down their opponents. It does the highest damage right now, I think, of any spec. The only one that might be able to compete with it is another spec that has snuck its way onto this list, but it's definitely a good spec to go after right now. Would definitely recommend the Havoc Demon Hunter coming in at the number 4 position. Moving into number 3, we're looking at the Elemental Shaman. Did you really expect to see the Elemental Shaman coming in on this list? Similarly to the Havoc Demon Hunter, not receiving any buffs specifically at itself, but with nerfs to the Craven Stratagem Legendary, having Hunters no longer feign deathing off your Flame Shock, having Warriors, Fury Warriors potentially not just running you down with Retribution Paladins. These were like some of the highest or most difficult situations to deal with as an Elemental Shaman, things like Jungle Cleave and Ret Warrior, and with reductions to their potency, you are already a powerful specialization in terms of offense. And I think coupling with a Mistweaver Monk with high throughput is going to alleviate some of the weaknesses that Elemental Shaman has in PvP, and its synergies with other specs that are on the top end of this list could really enable this spec to shine right now. It is a ton of fun, and I'm expecting it to be a lot more competitive moving forward. So this is the time, I think, to make an Elemental Shaman if there ever was one. Moving into the number 2 position, the Unholy Death Knight. So much like the other specializations that I've listed, is not receiving any specific buffs to itself, but nerfs to the Retribution Paladin, nerfs to the Fury Warrior, nerfs to the Hunter, these classes that made it difficult for other specs that Death Knights are playing with, particularly Demonology Warlocks, is really going to enable this class. I think that Demonology Warlock Unholy Death Knight could become one of the best comps in the game, pairing it up with a Mistweaver Monk. If Mistweaver Monk ends up falling through the cracks, then again, Holy Priest is still likely going to be my main recommendation, but this spec is just doing so much damage during its cooldowns. It is highly durable. It's likely to do really well in a Warlock Wizard meta, so you definitely want to check it out for the same reasons that Demon Hunter is, and Holy Death Knight Demon Hunter and Holy Death Knight Demonology Warlock. These types of things are going to be very scary. They already are, so they're just going to get even more scary moving forward. And now, the number 1 position. This is probably something you didn't expect. It's a bit of a surprise with how brilliant it truly is. And that spec moving into the number 1 position is, drumroll please, the Arcane Mage. No, I'm just kidding. This is I wouldn't throw you under the bus like this. You know, I can't do this in good faith to pretend that this is going to be a good decision. Okay, this is not a good decision. Take it from me. If you do not want the struggles of LFG and the pain that comes along with this spec, yeah, don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay, you'll be better off if you don't. Now, the actual number one position is the Demonology Warlock. And did that really come as a surprise to you? Really, the only buff that it is receiving in this patch is that Dark Pact is now going to absorb an additional 50%, but much like the same of the other specs, Ret Paladins and Warriors coming down in strength, potentially Outlaw Rogues and Fire Mage coming down a bit in strengths, Holy Priest, things like this. I think that Demonology Warlock is really going to get to shine. Demonology Warlock Elemental Shaman, Demonology Warlock Death Knight, maybe Demonology Warlock Mage, and a couple of other ones. I have some honorable mentions on this list as well for specs that you should check out that received some changes that could have possibility, and I'll explain why. I don't know if they'll necessarily be competitive, but Demonology will, especially if you're running with the Night Fae Covenant. You are going to do a tremendous amount of damage with Demonic Tyrant. Highly desirable spec come Tuesday. Just make sure you're re-rolling from Necro to Night Fae with this one, and you are likely to have a really good time with this patch. So definitely a patch of DKs, Demon Hunters, Warlocks, Wizards, and Elemental Shamans is what I'm expecting here. Obviously, Rogue Mage, I think, is not going to be going anywhere. So if you were wondering, Rogue Mages, but I wanted to talk about the new exciting stuff and not more of the same that we already really come to expect. But honorable mentions on this list are going to include specs such as the Shadow Priest, which was already a very durable spec. I think now receiving a 15% damage to its Shadow Word Pain and a 10% damage to its Vampiric Touch, especially if you're running a Megalomania build on Shadow Priest, is going to allow you maybe to be a powerhouse spec. And if it's going to be a dot meta, pairing up with a Warlock, potentially a Death Knight or a Demon Hunter, maybe a Balanced Druid, something like that, because Shadow Priest was already getting some decent numbers, but this is likely maybe to put you in more of a competitive ballpark with the amount of damage that other classes can do. And again, with Craven Stratagem being nerfed, these damage over time effect specs are likely to shine a little bit more. I do wish that Craven nerf had gone in a different direction, maybe not the cooldown of it, but not removing dots entirely, because dots are still going to likely be countered by it, just not so badly. So we'll have to wait and see with that one, but Affliction Warlock as well, receiving big damage buffs. Well, not big damage buffs, but sorry, big damage reduction buffs, so that they're taking less damage. They're going to be absorbing more damage, and they're going to do 5% more just damage on all of their baseline abilities. I'm curious to see how this Essence Drain PvP talent plays out with the Night Fae Covenant getting triple drains of life during Soul Rot, if that ends up just being a shield wall under the whole enemy team. And also the Gateway Mastery PvP talent being changed to reducing the cooldown that players can take the Demonic Gateway by 30 seconds up from 15. So being able to kite and avoid damage while they're not going to be gaining armor from losing demon armor, this extra mobility and escape mechanisms could really enable Warlock, and bringing in something like a Mistweaver with high throughput healing to heal through those moments where they have low armor could be really impactful for the Affliction Warlock. But still, the reason that I'm putting these damage over time effect classes onto kind of like the honorable mentions and not the top 5 itself is because we have really just yet to see damage over time effect classes that are like heavily damage over time effect classes like Shadow and Affliction end up coming to the top of the ranks. And it's because of all these counter dot mechanics, and also with Death Knights being so strong and Demon Hunters, I'm a bit worried that these damage over time effect classes are just not able to penetrate the damage reduction of Demon Hunters or the absorption effects of Death Knights. But they could still be a lot of fun and worth checking out and have some potential, which is why I wanted to give them an honorable mention on this top 5. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed this type of content, then please make sure you hit the subscribe button. I am doing my best to produce the best content to keep you ahead of the competition, and trying to get to 40,000 subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.